Why should fruit be avoided on an alkaline diet, or should it? And is glucose or fat the best source of energy? I recently got asked this question by one of my members of the Alkaline Life Club, and at first I looked at it and I thought, this is quite simple, it's just about fruit and we'll talk about fruit. But as I started digging into the question, I realised that there were many layers to it. Here's the question. Hi, I'm reading Ross's book, The Alkaline Reset Cleanse. I'm really perplexed on the fruit sugars. Everything makes sense, but I know so many people who thrive on a high fruit diet, even on a diabetes program called Mastering Diabetes. I've always understood it that fruit or glucose and fat do not go together. You've pretty much got to choose your energy source, but it's hard for me to believe that fruit is horrible for the liver when I see so many people doing so well with it. Okay, well, let's talk about fruit first. The issue isn't with fruit itself. Fruits are full of goodness. I'm gonna get into all of this, and there is a little nuance here that is really important, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's dig into this concept of glucose and fructose and then fat. So you've said in the question, fruit or glucose and fat do not go together. You've pretty much got to choose your energy source. Now, this is a really important one to dig into actually. Delineating first between fructose and glucose. Fruit, which is the focus of the question here, contains primarily fructose. It's mostly fructose, and there's a little bit of glucose in there as well. Fructose and glucose actually operate really differently in the body, and I want to cover this off before we jump into the relationship between sugars as a source of energy and fat as a source of energy. Fructose and glucose are both known as monosaccharides, which means they're a simple sugar, the simplest of sugars. They can't be broken down into any more simple of sugar. They share the same chemical formula, C6H12O6, but their atoms are arranged differently, and this is why they're metabolized differently in your body. So glucose is absorbed directly into your bloodstream through your intestinal lining. You eat it, it gets straight into the bloodstream. It raises your blood sugar levels, which in turn then stimulate the release of insulin from your pancreas. Insulin then helps glucose enter your body's cells where it's used for energy, and under normal conditions this is actually your body's preferred source of energy because it's really easily accessible, it can be quickly metabolized, it can be metabolized all over the body. This is where your body will go to for energy. Fructose isn't really an energy source. It can only be metabolized by your liver, and that is actually quite a stressful process. With small amounts, it's not an issue. But when there's either loads all at once, such as if you had a fruit juice or dried fruits or syrups or high fructose corn syrup, which we'll get onto in a minute, or if you're getting a reasonably high amount of fructose chronically all the time, so loads of processed foods using sweeteners and so on, that in both of those situations you get a ton of inflammation, loads of fat cell formation, loads of uric acid in the body, and so much more. And both of these situations cause that problem. Concentrated fructose and that chronically high level fructose. So this is important for in just a minute, so hold on to that for a second. Now, they are different. The body uses them differently. Fructose is not the primary source of sugar energy. In the liver, fructose can be converted to glucose or glycogen, which is the stored form of glucose in the liver, but it's only going to be giving you energy within the liver cells themselves. It doesn't create the insulin response, so it can't be converted into energy by the body. Glucose, by far the body's primary energy source when it comes to sugars. The rise in blood sugar triggers that release of insulin, which helps the cells absorb the glucose and use it for energy. Fructose doesn't have that insulin response. So they're very clear, they're very different. We're talking about fruit today, but I want that to be clear as we get into the next part of the question, which is this concept of having to pick between either glucose or sugars as an energy source or fat as an energy source. And I feel if I did a little bit of a dig around where this question with you came from, I do feel like it might have come from the very low fat vegan crowd. And it is a bit of a nonsense, I have to say. I feel like this is one of those cases where someone's just kind of making stuff up to get you like fully converted into their fats are bad, you don't need fats, use glucose for energy, but don't get sucked into that. It is nonsense. So glucose versus fat. We'll park fructose for a minute. So glucose, as we've said, is the body's primary energy source. And under normal conditions, your body will use glucose first for energy because it's easily accessible and it can be quickly metabolized. Carbohydrates that we consume in our diets are broken down into the glucose, which is then used by cells for energy. Fat, on the other hand, is used by the body for energy by breaking down stored fats into fatty acids and glycerol, which are then converted into energy. Now, the liver can, of course, also convert fatty acids into ketones, but we won't go down the rabbit hole of keto on this video. That's for another day. But the body can use both. It can use sugars, glucose, and it can use fat. And this is really important. It can switch between them as needed. Whatever it needs, whatever is available, your body can switch readily and easily. It's called metabolic flexibility. And we all do it every night while we're asleep. After the glucose from your day's food has all been burnt and used, your body overnight will gradually shift to burning more fat. The body actually preferences fat as an energy source while we sleep. So we're not consciously choosing it at that stage. We're not going, oh, I'm picking glucose. No, your body's doing it for you. So in a state of very, very low carb consumption, like when aiming for nutritional ketosis, the body will happily shift to fat as a fuel. There's no problems there, we know this. And the interesting thing is the people that are trying to be in nutritional ketosis, which is actually quite hard to get into proper nutritional ketosis, people that are trying to get there will often dance along that line for days, sort of flipping between fat and glucose for energy throughout the day. And there are no noticeable, measurable health consequences to constantly using this metabolic flexibility. So if you're choosing fat as your energy source, you are going to keep flipping back and forth unless you are super, super, super strict keto. And that is achievable, obviously, and it's sustainable. But if you're choosing glucose from sugars, fruit, however you want to define it, as your energy source, your body is still going to flip to burning fat at night. It's still going to exercise that metabolic flexibility. So to put it simply, you don't have to choose. There is no negative consequence to being someone that wants to be in both camps and uses both glucose and fat for energy. Most of us are doing it all day, every day, again, unless you're a strict ketosis. Metabolic flexibility is a really, really critical aspect of human metabolism. All right, so hopefully we've cleared that up. Let's get into the last two bits of the question now. I talk about this a lot in the Alkaline Life book, my new book, which is coming out in January. You can pre-order it at the link below, a little plug for the book there. But let's get into this really important question of, is fruit bad on an alkaline diet, or is fruit bad for your liver? So firstly, is fruit horrible for your liver? No. Is too much fructose horrible for your liver? Definitely yes. Yes. Fruit in moderation is totally fine and awesome, especially if you focus on lower sugar fruits like berries that are also really high in awesome antioxidants. Blueberries are my favorite, by the way. But any fruit is fine in moderation and you'll still be living an alkaline life. 1 to 2 serves, 3 serves in a day, whatever, it's all good. The issue comes with either very concentrated fructose hitting the liver all at once, or moderately high fructose levels chronically over the long term. And by far, the biggest risk is from syrups, added sugars, things like high fructose corn syrup. But concentrated fructose from juices and smoothies and dry fruits is a risk as well. This is why we don't have fruit in our green juices. It's just a really unnecessary stress to the liver. It creates lots of uric acid production, it creates lots of inflammation, it creates lots of fat cell production that we don't want in the liver. I don't include dried fruits in the Alkaline Life, except for, I think in one of my over 500 recipes, I might have some dried cranberries in there. Juices are a bit of an issue, especially because of, one, we remove the fiber, and the fiber slows down the metabolism of the fructose. So eating whole fruit is fine. It's got the fiber in it. Juicing, not so good. We've removed the fiber. We also tend to include a lot of fruit when we're making the juices. I've seen some green juice recipes out there that are like 2 apples, half a pineapple, 2 oranges, a pear. That's not a green juice and would contain probably 40 to 50 grams of fructose, all hitting that liver within minutes. This situation would be really inflammatory, really acidic, really stressful, really messes with those hunger hormones, the leptin and the ghrelin, the adiponect. This is where I stand with fruits. You don't need to eliminate them. You don't need to avoid them. Lower sugar fruits are absolutely amazing. Even higher sugar fruits in moderation. If you're just being normal and eating normal amounts of fruits, you can relax. Juiced, dried, blended is a bigger concern, but the biggest concern is added sugars, syrups, sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, and so on. I'll put my big bet link to the best sources of sugar, alternative sweeteners and stuff below this video, so do check that out. Now, the final question, which is also really important, which is, I know so many people who thrive on a high fruit diet. I get this with all manner of different diets all the time. My friend's going great on a carnivore diet. My cousin is losing weight on a raw food diet. It makes total sense. Raw, keto, paleo, fruit only, carnivore. All of these diets are way, way, way better for you than a standard modern diet. Maybe not the carnivore diet, but we'll get into that another day. But these are, of course, so much better, and they're going to deliver huge benefits to you if you're switching from a regular standard modern diet. It's not just standard American diet. Australia, UK, Europe are just as bad. But if you're switching from that to a high fruit diet or a keto diet, of course, they've all got merit. You're stripping out loads of processed foods, loads of sugar, loads of additives, loads of gluten, loads of crap. Just taking all of that stuff out is going to deliver benefits. However, that doesn't mean it's optimal or even close to optimal, or that it should be taken on by yourself or by others. Eating fruit alone is not a great choice. It's better than eating a standard modern diet, but it's nowhere near as good as it could or should be. We could analyze this for hours, but even just omitting the healthy fats is a terrible choice. These fats are so important and can all also be gained from plant sources, so there can't be any vegan discussion about this here. Not including the leafy greens makes no sense either. These are some of the most nutrient-dense foods on earth, hands down. They contain all manner of unique antioxidants unique to them. So a diet that contains leafy greens and healthy fats and nuts and seeds and vegetables and fruit is always going to be far, far better and more beneficial than a diet of just fruit alone. It's not to say that someone eating only fruit and no processed foods is going to have a terrible liver, but I'd definitely be interested to see their liver function test results. I mean, it is better than eating tons of processed foods, of course, but high fructose, in the case of your friend with the diabetes, wouldn't be an issue because the fructose doesn't spike insulin, so that's not part of the puzzle either. But if you are consuming tons of fruit juice and fruit smoothies and dried fruits and fruits at every meal, I would be interested to see those liver function testing. And my recommendation to you, because you're already reading the Alkaline Reset Cleanse and it's all making sense, as you've said, is to just go forth with this. Go forth with living alkaline, including fruit. Smile and nod when your friend talks about all their fruity meals, and enjoy your food. Don't restrict yourself too much. Don't try to be perfect. Take everything one step at a time. I feel like I've answered your questions, every question asked, and a couple more that you didn't ask, but I hope that's okay. I hope that this has helped. And don't forget, all of you watching this right now, to go ahead and order the Alkaline Life book. It's coming January 23rd on the link below this video. And don't forget as well to check out my ultimate guide to sugars, sweeteners, and healthy alternatives below as well. And I'll see you all on the next video.